to the edge. Take it to the edge and be on that line. What if you fade out in the solar line? Take it to the edge, yeah, we built for more. Every limit we break, open up.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen, kings and peasants? Welcome to the Edge of Greatness episode 473. This is a hyperflow space, and let's get right into it. Let's get right into it. When someone judges things, a lot of unnecessary turbulence is created in their mind. What most people judge things while being aware of what is being created. Brain fog, just like clouds stopping the light from the moon to reflect perfectly and instantaneously in the water. Clarity is hindered, and that's a choice whether it's made consciously or not. While this turbulence is there mentally, one could have the entire Empire State Building thrown into their mind, and they wouldn't notice that it's there because they don't have clarity. Something is in the way, which is their judgments they feel safe with and defend to death. So that's self sabotage right there. When a person is judging, the only thing that is a certainty is the little box they build up in their mind, the very box that makes them feel safe. And if someone pokes that box from the outside, especially if it's the truth, they choose to get hurt and stay in their little box. When their tiny box is there, no knowledge expansion can take place. And the best part is that their creative energies can't flow freely as they should, because the walls of their little box prevents that energy to flow, which means that they create their own suffering. This means that they are unenlightened and lack the knowledge of how energies should flow. They don't know God enough. And thus they spread their black magic onto others through word of mouth without being aware of what damage it does. Most of these unaware people choose to spread their sickness over others, spreading more unawareness onto the population. And this is how the 99% of reactive peasants keep expanding for the emotionally intelligent to control. The mentally rigid individual is attached to their ego, which feels safe. The same ego that has created an identity of what they currently know. This means that they have not unlocked their conscious creator, the very creator that creates with love and a life worth living. The unaware individual has not unlocked their conscious choice maker. And with their clouded mind, they will always continue to tie together their existence with their thoughts, words, and deeds in a way that suits their ego, which is destructive for others since it is unawareness they spread. Sickness is another word for unenlightenment. Unenlightenment is the only problem in the world, but it's not even a problem, since it's simply energy tying existence together. Feeling sorry for these people only means attachment to a part of oneself, which lies in the past. And when someone is attached to their past, they are part of the problem because they have also created an identity with their ego and haven't been able to release or work through that properly. Only when no pittiness is felt for others, then the mind can be free. To understand and to be attached is two completely different things. No one can force anyone to wake up. Only seeds can be planted. And life is short, so the awake people have to cut the cord to the unawake people, so that the un so that and life is short, so the awake people have to cut the cord to the unawake people, so that the awake people can ascend even higher. Since the unawake people are only dead weight and keeps descending. Pro tip: when you remember the difference between thoughts and thinking, that's when you step out of your tiny little box effortlessly. All you need to do is keep expanding your self knowledge and this tip I just gave you, remembering the difference between thoughts and thinking. That's all one have to do. Remember the difference between thoughts and thinking. That's a hack. I shared this in my subs today, guys. This is what I share in my subs. I know how to manage the mind. I know the mind. That doesn't mean that my way of knowing it is your way of knowing it, but perhaps I have some information and knowledge that could fit your puzzle too if you listen. You know, and perhaps it's not the right time for you to hear these things as well. So therefore patience is required. But this is what I do. I study the mind and psychology, and in an entrepreneurial direction. That's what I do. I'm helping people understand the world because I've found a way to understand it extremely well for myself, which has removed my anxiety completely. I'm not afraid of death anymore. Isn't that something to show for it? Doesn't that mean anything? Most people are afraid of death, and most people don't even know what death I'm talking about. I'm talking about the death of the ego, but also the death of the physical body. But what happens? We got to know what happens. What happens when the ego dies? How does the energy move? Thermodynamics. The energies move. They're not removed from existence, they move. But how do we move them? You know? So that's the death. The death of the ego can be explained psychologically. But then we have the death of the body as well. What happens with that? There is a very straightforward way to explain that too. We don't know everything, but we can see that from what we know as humans, that's all we can know. We can't know more than what humans know. It's impossible. You can study these things for yourself. You do not need a degree. You do not need a degree. You don't need a degree to understand how life works. Because the system we've been born into is not life. That's a prison. And it's supposed to depress people instead of express. So it expresses the people so that the people on top can express. That's what's happening. So that was a little bit about the subs post I made today. That's a good one. Sickness is another word for unenlightenment. Most definitely. And I see this everywhere. Especially if I come into the proximity of an individual. It can be any individual. Doesn't really matter who it is. I can go into the proximity of an individual, and most likely, because 99% are peasants and they don't think. So you approach an individual on the street because you're supposed to be there now, but you've developed yourself. You've developed yourself. They haven't. Most likely they haven't. And you've developed yourself, so you've unlocked your observer, your creator. So you're able to hold your creative frameworks in your mind to practice the discipline that you've developed for yourself through a creative framework that you've achieved through self-studies. So you have that in your brain. You're able to keep your shit together at all times, even in chaos. Even in chaos. So you approach this individual and they seem, from the way their body moves, a little bit terrified and tense. And you're calm. You're very calm. They are experiencing someone that is practicing discipline. Usually, most people, the 99%, only practice discipline when they are angry. That's when their discipline comes in. So when someone that practices discipline and is not angry are in the proximity of someone that haven't worked on themselves, they haven't unlocked these things for themselves, they're gonna feel scared because they think that the disciplined individual is angry, but he's only practicing discipline. Do you see the paradox? So, if you are very good at keeping your shit together and practice discipline in public environments, this is a very good sign that, you know, you can stay calm in an environment like that. And that's very powerful. That's extremely powerful. You are then an individual that can express your creative energies in a public environment. Most people get into survival in public environments and look around looking for threats. You know, we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. We can create. We can create instead. So this is what self-development does as well. Self-development have us become calm because knowledge brings calm. Knowledge brings calm, guys. I'm not gonna stop talking about this. I'm not gonna stop talking about this at all because this is the only thing that matters on planet Earth. This is the only thing that matters on planet Earth. And I am on a mission to wake up more people, but I do understand that process. And I do understand that people can't be forced to be woken up. They can't. It's impossible. Because when you understand the psychology of that, if you're trying to tell someone something, their mind shuts down completely. They're gonna refuse to take in whatever you say. It's too obvious. They're not gonna take that attack. But if you ask questions instead, questions opens up the mind, even their mind, and it's not gonna feel threatening to them either. So questions versus statements. Statements shuts down the mind, even your own mind. Even your own mind. Statements are good in certain scenarios, but when it comes to learning and expressing creative energies, the truth should be used as statements, but what you don't know should be used as questions. Or when you're the teacher and you know the things, but you ask the questions so that the disciple can develop and learn. You know, this is very important. Most school teachers don't understand this either. Most school teachers don't understand how to teach people properly. They don't understand that information have to be pulled out of individuals, not pushed in. Do you see that difference? Do you see the difference? People learn when they're not pushed information into them, but the information is pulled out of them. So the pulling is what has people learn. What happens when you pull out information? You pull out information through asking questions, right? You know, you have them think for themselves. You have them think for themselves. Their brain are now expressing these creative energies because it's open. The energies are flowing, which is what energies should do in this life. Energies should flow, not stay stagnant and rigid. So when the energies are flowing freely, they are able to express. So now you are pulling out the answers of them. You're not pushing in anything. You're pulling it out. And when energies move and when people get to express their creative energies to learn in that way, they truly learn. And they get more energized from that. A soul dies when information is getting pushed into an individual. But the soul gets nurtured when you pull information out of an individual with questions. So pushing in information into someone, which school does, every single school I've ever heard of, none of them is different, except for the elite schools. I think that the elite schools teach people how to think, not what to think. But most schools teach people what to think, which is pushing information into people, and that kills the soul. And that's done with statements and useless facts. This is how it was. This is how it is. This is how it was. And then this is what you have to know for this test. And if you don't know these things, these rigid things, it has to be exactly this way. If you don't know that, if you don't answer this exact way on the test, you will get an F. You will fail. You don't get to redo it. You don't get to redo the test either. You can't fail. This teaches people. You can't redo the test. So the entire learning process is completely fucked in schools. And, you heard what I just said. They tell people things. But what are they showing people during this process? That it's not okay to fail. That's what they are showing people while pushing information into people. Do you see how upside down this entire learning process is? This is indoctrination. That's the word for it. This is a rigid structure. This is the system. A system is rigid. It's not creative and fluid. So if the system is rigid and not fluid, and schools pushes information into people, yeah, people don't get to learn how to think. That's really it. That's really it. I could have gone longer on this thought, but I lost it there. But the mind is not supposed to remember every single thing either. So the best thing is to let it go. I could have gone longer. I know more about this. But the conscious mind, the conscious mind can only process up to 40 bits of data per second. It's like a computer, the bits and bytes. 40 bits of data per second. That's not much. That's the conscious mind. Then we have the subconscious mind, which can process between 10 to 40 million bits of data per second. What does this tell us? The conscious mind kind of sounds like what school is trying to indoctrinate. And the subconscious mind, which requires a creative state of mind for the energies to flow freely, to grab the information from the subconscious mind whenever it's needed, right? So you're in the environment, you grab the tools you've developed along your way, it's stored in the subconscious mind, the long-term memory. The energies have to flow in order to do that. And how do we have the energies flowing? We ask questions. We don't make statements. This is the machine. This is your brain, the most powerful tool you've ever been granted. And 99% of the population don't use their brain properly because they don't know how. They don't know how to think. They've been told this is how it is. um, and you're supposed to get a job. You're not even supposed to get money. You're supposed to have a job because the teachers have a job. Why are the teachers of school knowing these useless things that they have no use of except for being employed. I don't, yeah. So, what I think is that life is really about being an entrepreneur, and an entrepreneur is just another word for saying living life. You know, when we look at entrepreneurs, I don't mean the self employed people that build their own worst nightmares, which is 99% of businesses. I don't even consider that a business. You're self employed. So the self employed people create from their knowledge from school, right? Most people want to be free and this and that, and they start their own business, but they create their own hell because that's all they know. That's the education they have. This is why focusing on yourself first is so important in the direction of entrepreneurship. That's why I've niched down to that. I'm expressing this knowledge in my subscribers, and I shared this post now today because I wanted to show that to you guys. So if you weren't here, you can listen back to this space. I read out this subs post in the very beginning, and it's very profound information. You know, it takes time to get all of these puzzle pieces and puzzle it together in a way where it actually makes sense. That's why personally I do study so much myself. You know, books, psychology, sales, the present moment, the power of now. Very good book. We have, you know, you could anything. How do you, how do you, what's a framework? What's a mental framework? How do you put up systems for yourself to move properly? Um, what's the spirit to begin with? No one has really talked about that with us. If you didn't have parents that did that, mine didn't. I had to teach myself that. I don't know, books about AI, this and that. You can decipher all of the myths. Then we have the Bible and these things. Obviously, I think that's very good. Bible, the Kabbalion, and what more do we have? Yeah, how the system works, how the banking system works, the central bank, and then we have the commercial banks that is structured all around the central banks. Commercial banks is just like an e-commerce store. It's anyone can anyone can run a bank. You can start a bank today. You know, you can start a bank today. You just gotta go through some stuff, but you can also do that. It's not rocket science. But that 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 has been a uh, very good thing to go through and learn as well. So all of these things, you puzzle all of these things together, you find these nuggets of truth and information here and there, you know, and you feel it when you read it. You won't find everything in one book. But when you get these nuggets of truth, you can start to puzzle things together. You can understand the world in a completely different way. And this is why knowledge is so important, because this builds out the metaphysical map in your brain that has you move in a completely different way. You don't move because of what you see in the physical realm anymore. When you develop your spiritual side, you will be able to see the electricity all around you and how this energy moves all around. You know, it's never getting destroyed, it's never getting added, it's only getting moved. It only moves. And this is God's energy in motion. Emotion. It's simple, guys. This electricity is in everything because cells talk with other cells through electrical impulses. I can't believe more people are in this space now. Because if people understood these things, um, yeah, they can listen to this. I mean, it might be a podcast episode, but this is God's energy in motion. And if we can understand how this electricity moves with the simple universal laws, such as the first law of thermodynamics, which states that energy can neither be destroyed nor created, it can only be transformed or transferred. That's a very good one. You can learn how energies move with that. But also, the second law of thermodynamics, which states that heat always moves to cold, order always moves to chaos. Always. Every single structure that is ever created is moving towards entropy and decay, unless a force is feeding that structure almost daily, 1% better each day. That's you and me and our business. So you can start reasoning around life in a spiritual way and see how the energies move like this, and not do it from the perspective of looking outwards, which most people do. That's how people build their personal hell. But if you look inwards, you can start seeing this electricity for yourself. How do you learn to see how money moves? You don't look outwards. It's exactly what I've just explained. I haven't made millions of dollars, but this is a nugget that you can bring with you. You know, this is millions. This just paper, bro. It's just paper. Someone that has made millions, they might have not discovered the truth yet. And that person will then keep spreading the sickness of this is how you do it. But they don't know that no one thinks the same. So they will keep spreading sickness. That's how all these fucked courses get started. It's nothing wrong with the course. It's who starts the course. What's backing it? Is it any value in it? Who is the person behind this shit? Do they actually know this? And I'm one of those people. Something big is coming, guys. I'm not gonna talk about it, but I'm always working. Also slaving, but I'm also working, which is that's good. Something big is coming, guys. And the entire funnel is being built out right now at this second. And this is what fuels my life. This is what self-knowledge does. It narrows down exactly what we want to do in life. That's what self-knowledge does. You might in this life get to know what you love to do the absolute most, or you won't. But how do you make sure that you get to the point where you know this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life? How do you get to that point? You get to know yourself better and you read books, self-development books. You get to know yourself better. That's how you narrow down this funnel of who you are and what your specialties are. You will feel the truth when you hear it. So that has been the message of this space today, guys. This is truth. This is psychology. This is explaining energy in motion. This is figuring out who you are and how to increase the probabilities of reaching your full potential as a human being. I appreciate you guys so much for pulling up to this space today. I wish you guys a fantastic rest of your day or night, and I will catch you guys next time. Walk with truth, walk with power, and I will see you guys at the absolute freaking top of the mountain. I'm gonna be there. Are you gonna stand next to me? It's your choice. Most people are called, but few are chosen. The one that has to choose is you. Stop waiting, take action today. See you guys next time.
Take it to the edge and be on that line, where the fear fade out in the solar line. Take it to the edge, yeah, we built for more. Every limit we break, open up new doors. Take it to the edge. That's the life we chose.